Okay. Happy Friday, guys. I can't believe we're back again. I know we took off last week, and I hope you all had a lovely long bank holiday weekend. It's funny, in America, the weekend before was a bank holiday. It was, I think, Memorial Day. We had a few birthdays on the team as well, so that's exciting. So let's get to it. Tonight's painting, a few of you had written out in saying, I just need a little bit of fun, colorful beach something summary to bring us into that next season that we're entering. By the way, the weather was incredible, wasn't it, Jill? Do you think it'll come back?
It was. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so worried it's not going to come back. Leave Insert was canceled, and so was the weather. Um, no, I'm staying positive. We'll say it's going to be there. So so for tonight's stream, we have a really beautiful painting for you guys. Again, love hearing all the different suggestions that you guys sent in. So keep those coming. I've also just uploaded a on our social media, on our Instagram stories. You can fill in the thing to get a little shout out tonight. One of the things that we were thinking is if you have little ones, since it's a family friendly event, at the end, if they need to be sent to bed, let us know and put it in the chat, and we'll make sure we give the marching orders up to the stairs. So tonight's event, again, it's a family fun, friendly event. It's so great to have you guys each week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. There's so many of you have kind of been with us since the very beginning. It's awesome. Our team also had a very busy week. We had a couple events today. So this is the last event of today. We had a few private events for some teams. And of course, we get all the packs out to them ahead of time. So, well done to everyone working behind the scenes to get everything out and working seamlessly. Thank you. So Jill, will we get into it? Because I think I'm excited for this painting.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer than some of the easier ones, but I promise we'll get through.
Absolutely. So as we're going through, if as you guys know, if you guys can't hear us or anything, just let us know in the YouTube chat. And as well, we'd love to hear, where are you guys from? Write to us. This is for you. Be interactive. I'd love to know, where's everyone from? How did you hear about us? If this is your 16 week in a row with Paint by the Pints, let us know. We love to know. Right now, take a photo of your setup, tag Paint by the Pints, and we'll share it with our story. We love seeing all the crazy setups. It's very fun for us. And let's see. We have a few exciting things, but I'm going to leave my announcements towards the end of the stream because I want to kind of get into the painting. It is a little bit of a longer one, but by all means, take your time with it. If at any point you need to slow down or you feel like it's going too fast, you have complete control. You can pause us. You can fast forward us. That's a lovely thing. You can mute us and you can play your Spotify music if you want, whatever suits you. Tonight's for you guys. Right. So in behind the scenes, we have Stephen working diligently with the actual tutorial. So I'll ask him to pull it up now, please, Stephen. All right. And we'll get to it. And again, I'm going to announce our Guinness winners in a little bit, but first we'll start with the sketch of this painting, this tutorial.
Yeah, so as always, I'm using the same 5 colors as I always use, just to make it easy for someone. And if you have different colors and you want to use those, you're more than welcome to change the color of the building or change the color of the flowers, the pots, or whatever. Like it's whatever you guys, however you want to make it your own. So
Exactly. And that's one of my favorite things is we always kind of change it up. If you want it to be like a blue or a purple door, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, our favorite colors. If you have a favorite color door, by all means, switch it up. Doesn't have to be red. Same with the colors of the flowers as we're going. Keep that in mind. So the one thing that's really nice about this is you can see Jill's literally setting up as you set up. So if you've sat there and your paints are still closed, that's fine. Do it with her. She's going in, she's adding her different colors in. And as well, you're going to want probably a water cup just to rinse your brush out in. And as well, a napkin is always handy just so you can kind of dab off the excess water and paint away. There's some really beautiful colors, but as always, we're doing our standard red, yellow, blue, black, and white. So the primary colors and then our blacks and white, and that'll allow us to kind of create all the colors from scratch.
Yeah, and depending on what type of colors you really have, it will depend on how your colors may vary from mine. Like I have a lemon yellow, you may have a cad yellow. I have a cyan blue, you may have an ultramarine blue, which will make it slightly darker, not as sky color kind of that's on mine. But so jumping right into it, I just have a quick pencil just to kind of lay it out. If you don't have a pencil, you can just do like a watered down gray color and just quickly sketch it in. And this is just to give you kind of like a base um, shape, just to kind of eye up how big you want your building to be. And so you're going to have a large rectangle on your left. It's going to take up a good chunk of your canvas. So just right of center is a straight line down. And then I'm turning it because you can always turn your canvas. It's not stationary. And I'm just using my pinky on the side of my canvas to help me create like a nice straight line. So the base of that building is about 3/4 of the way down, and then there's 2 lines underneath of that, and that's going to be part of the step. And the front of the step is going to be wider than the back of the step, so that's why it looks like it's kind of coming in an angle. And this is where I'm kind of placing the door, just sketching it in. And I'm not using a normal pencil, I think I'm using a watercolor pencil. If you're using a normal, regular graphite pencil, it's fine. So then I realized there that I wanted my door to be a little bit bigger than the step. So, and again, this is what the sketch is. It's quickly drawing it in, getting comfortable with the dimensions, and this is where you can really change it up. So the outside of the door, and then there's going to be a line on the inside of the door, and that's where that depth of the door frame is coming in. And your step is going to start from the inside of that door and go all the way out to the wider point to give you a little bit of a perspective there.
This is fun too because I always think of it like I always think of making a door. It could be a fairy door. It could be literally anything. A bit of fun.
Yeah. And I love red doors. So if you don't like red doors, you can paint a blue door. You can paint a green door.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is with me and red doors, but I love red doors.
I was just talking to like all the people in my last private event, and we were all talking about how we love the new Netflix series Selling Sunset. And yes, it's very much like, you know, The Hills, or it's very dramatic and all of that. But it's the houses are so incredible that you just couldn't even imagine like having an open house, walking into that open house, let alone buying and living in these homes. And I mean, the red door is the least of it, but I love, especially if I'm going on like cycles around in our 2 kilometers and now 5 kilometers, we have some really beautiful like gray blue steel doors that I'm obsessed with, and every time I run by I'm like, oh, look at that. So it is funny. I think everyone has a door preference, which again, we're talking about our favorite color, but who knows, it might be a thing. It could be a dream. A lot of people have a dream to have like that, like a picket fence, or like my sisters were obsessed with the idea of having like a porch, a front porch that you could sit on and watch the neighborhood kind of go by.
So we have placed the step, we have placed the door, and now we are quickly sketching in the plant pot just to the left of the door. And that sketch initially, it's very cylinder. It's very like the sides are very straight up and down. I think by the end of it, I changed the shape of it. So if you like it straight up and down, you can put that in. If you like it a little bit rounder, you can do that as well. Now this is the vine that's kind of growing up the side of the building and around the door frame. And your base of that vine is going to be thicker. And then as you kind of make your way up the building and around the door, those branches are going to thin out a bit. And then here is the second flower pot. And these are good sized flower pots in comparison to the door. And then just to give more of a something in the foreground, this third flower pot is literally going to come off the side and the bottom of your canvas. And then those two lines are your horizon line, and then the line where the sky meets the sea. And that's pretty much it for your sketch.
Do you want to pause it there just for a second? And
Sure.
we'll let everyone catch up. Sometimes I find that a sketch can be quite easy. Like, I do think that this one won't be too crazy. I'd say maybe making sure that the flower box at the bottom right is kind of bigger because it's closer. It's that Father Ted joke, near, far away. So the one that's near is going to be a bit bigger, and the one that is against the door, the two on the side, they'll be a bit smaller. So just looking at the perception of it, taking literally a step back. I like to literally stand a foot or two away and say, okay, that looks awesome. Or, ooh, okay, I might fix this or this. Because once you start putting paint on, it's harder to kind of tweak different things. But at this very moment, sketching things out is always a helpful kind of first tool.
Yeah. If you size up those planters that are near the door, they go up about a third of the way up the door. But then the size of the planter that's in that foreground, it's literally half that size of that door. Just to put that into perspective, like that front planter is definitely going to be larger than the planters in the background.
Exactly. So we'll give you another couple seconds. And then also I have a shout out. So we have a lot of little painters tonight, which is exciting. And let me see. Yeah.
Always our favorite. Our pint-sized painters.
Pint-sized painters, as we call them, yes. So let's see. We have... Let me see. I think it's in my stories. Okay, we have Keela, aged 5, very excited to paint with us. Welcome, Keela. I'm super excited to see your painting at the end. Definitely send it in to us. Isn't that brilliant? Literally all ages, fearless, going at the painting. That's so exciting.
Love it.
And I was just saying, like, if you, I think everyone knows or has kids at home, or knows, friends that have kids at home that are like, what do we do with them for art time? I know I was reading through my little cousin's sheet today of what they need to do. And it was so extensive, and it was like, you have to do this, and theater and art. So if you are stuck for that, just literally write to us. We have endless ideas. We had a few people even teachers wrote to us last week of like, any ideas of virtual art ideas. I even have some toilet paper roll ideas of paint that you can do. So please do get in touch with us if you're stuck for ideas, and we'll keep them occupied for a couple hours. Our little gift to you, I suppose. And as well, of course, you always have the virtual channel that you can refer back to. It has a few of the easier paintings so that you can leave them to it. Even with crayons, it works quite well. Okay, let's go back to the painting. I think we're ready for some color. Are we feeling bold?
Yes.
Awesome.
So we're mixing just a little bit of the blue with some water to do like a wash. And this is the sky. So with sky, you want the upper portion of the sky to be darker, more saturated in color. Then as you make your way down to the sky to the horizon point, you want to add white to it. And that's just the perspective, the atmospheric perspective of all those particles that are in the air. They tend to collect more on the horizon, so your horizon line is always going to be lighter than the sky that's right above you. So that is why we do that. And now we're just kind of blending it in. And then we're going to take a chunk of that white too and just mix it onto the canvas into that blue.
This is so therapeutic. I love on canvas blending.
And it makes it easier to blend those lines out as well, so you don't have stripes. And just work that paint up and down, back and forth. And that will help blend in those lines so it's not stripy.
Yeah, exactly. I do love the odd streak of the white and the blue coming through, but definitely I always try, like I say, I try to avoid looking like a country flag of like blue, sky blue, white.
Yeah.
Just want it to be kind of streaky all the way
Yeah.
through. It's nice.
And I'm adding a tiny, tiny bit of red to a chunk of blue to make that blue a little bit darker. It's not going to be too purpley. You just want that red to add a little bit of depth to that blue. And then you're going to add that to that horizon line. And this is going to be the far end of the sea where it's deep, it's dark and cold. And then you're going to blend it and pull it down a little bit further to the line where it's going to kind of meet the sand. But as that sea comes towards you, it's getting more shallow. The color is going to not be as deep. So you're going to add some white to that too. You can add a little bit of yellow to make it a little bit of a green tone, streaks to it. The sea has so many colors in it. So you can really add to that feeling of that water being like a cool blue, just beautiful tone. This very much reminds me of the Caribbean.
Yes.
But I'm from the States, so that's kind of like my regional perspective, but you could absolutely place this in some Mediterranean area as well.
I was
So
just going to say, I have been to Nice, France a few times, and every time I go, I try to get seat F on the plane because then as you're flying in, you get the most spectacular view you've ever seen of the beautiful ocean water. It's like, or it's not even ocean, it's I guess Mediterranean. It is so vibrant, it looks fake. On top of it, it's just this like it's stunning city sitting around it. So I have to say, like, that's the kind of stuff that I always think of when I'm creating paintings of like, that looks like a painting. That looks fake, but actually is the watercolor.
Yeah, so as you kind of bring your water towards your sand, when you add chunks of white to it, you don't need to blend this chunks of white so much. But you can make it a little bit choppy because the sea is choppy. So now we're going to start working on our sand. And this is where it kind of gets a little tricky because sand is like a very light, pale yellow, but brownish yellow. It's like, and to make that, you want to add a lot of white to yellow and add a tiny little bit of blue and a tiny little bit of red to make this really light brown color. If you have different varieties of paint packs, like I'm pulling up now, in that paint pack is a yellow ochre, and I'm pulling that out, that one right there. If you have that color, you can have that yellow ochre with a lot of white, and that makes almost the perfect sand color. And you don't even need a whole lot, just a tiny little dollop. And that's brand new. I just opened it for this video. So the tiniest little dollop, if you have it. And then a lot of white, and it makes the perfect sandy yellow color. And I'm just painting it on just so you can see that color. But I'll use my brown color as well to kind of show you both. And with the sand, as the sand touches the water, or the water kind of goes over the sand, it's very dark browny, dark yellow. And then as you work your way from that water, it definitely lightens up. So again, you're going to add some white to that as you work your way down. And again, to make that brown color, it's yellow, red, and blue. But you want your sand color to be a little bit more yellowy orangish, with a tiny little bit of blue and a lot of white.
I love when we make up words. It's official term. Yellowy orange.
And even with the sand dune, there's lots of variations in those colors. So you don't want it like that flat color. You want variations. You want a little bit of white in it and a little bit of that brown.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
this is not too bad.
Now
I was just going to say, you're doing it step by step. So it's like chunk of color, and then just keep moving down.
Yeah. So now what I'm doing is that little bit of red and blue and yellow that we had made for the sand, I'm adding a little bit more to make it a little bit darker gray color for the patio area. I'm going to call it a patio. I don't know what else to call it.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
But if you find it easier to just mix a little bit of black and white, you can do that as well. But the patio, as the patio kind of meets with the sand, you're going to want to make that a lighter gray. And then as you work your way towards the bottom of the canvas, you're going to want to darken it a little bit at a time. And again, it's not a flat color. You add chunks to it. And then that light gray away from you is indicating that it is a bit further away. And as objects are closer to you, they're going to be more truer in color. So we're just going to paint in that patio area. And since it is the patio, your brush strokes, you kind of want it to go from side to side to just kind of emphasize that this is part of that horizon.
I think this painting, when I first saw it, was a little intimidating, but it's really not that bad.
It's not. It's not. When you break it down in the step-by-steps.
Exactly.
It's not at all.
The nice thing about this one as well is I love having a little bit of streak of the different colors coming through. Again, you have that gray, darker gray, a little bit of light.
Yeah, because how many surfaces outside do you see that are an absolutely perfect flat color?
Right. It just makes it more from 2D to 3D, which is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just gives it some depth and character to it.
Exactly. You know what I'm thinking, Jill? Our task for this week is going to be picking our next Guinness painting. It's always a hard one.
Yes, we will have to do it.
There's so many cute
animals.
I'm
adding a little bit of black. Sorry, I know there are. It's going to be so hard to pick. Now I'm adding a little bit of black to that gray and putting that black underneath of those pots. And that is basically the shadow of those pots. And what that is actually going to do is help ground those pots so they don't look like they're kind of floating there. And it just gives them that shadow. So it helps the pots look like they're actually sitting on that ground. I'm doing a thin dark line underneath of that step as well. and just blending those in. And then adding some streaks, more streaks to that gray. I'm just tapping those edges to soften those lines. And we're going to be still sticking with that gray color, adding a little bit of white to it. This is going to go underneath of the door frame. Because you have to think the light is coming from the top. So if your door frame has a bit of a ledge underneath of it, that's going to be in the shadows. And that medium gray is going to go on the top and a little bit down the edges. And as you make your way down the edges, you're going to want to lighten it up because that light is going to be able to reach that bottom part of that door frame. Rex says hi. So finishing up that doorway, you see how it's lighter at the bottom, and then as you work your way up, it gets a little bit darker.
I thought that was a happy tale of a puppy I heard. He's so cute.
It's his nails clicking on the floor, and he hears my husband talking in the other room, so he's starting to huff. Sneeze.
I honestly think that's my favorite part. We're going to have to, at some point, and this is what we'll get into later, but we are expanding some of the events that we're doing. So we have obviously this event that we do on Fridays, but we wanted to do a few kind of smaller, more like personalized events on Zoom. So like with our different artists, because there's so many of us. So you see Jill and I each Friday, but I think there's 9 of us. So I want to kind of start bringing everyone back in, especially because we all miss obviously doing our paint events. So you'll start to see some really cool events popping up on our website. And one of them, I definitely want to do like a dog friendly event, dog, cats, everything. Because every private event, Jill, I'll see, you either hear Rex or you see someone's cat like walking across their computer. It's just amazing. It's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, they're part of our family. So
I know.
Rex doesn't really ever let me out of his sight, and if I leave the room, and I try to hide from him, he panics. So
Where's mom? Where's mom?
Exactly. He really does not care who else is in the house.
That is
as
so
long
funny.
as he's near me, he's mine. Unless you have food, and then he will follow you to the ends of the earth. And that's
amazing.
the Labrador.
I'm super excited to announce the Guinness winners. Every week it cracks me up because I start by saying I'm very thankful I don't have to pick because it's too hard. There's so many options and they're all so different and amazing. That's why I love the People's Choice. Let me tell you, you guys are so fired up about voting. It makes me it cracks me up. I love it. All day today, I got like all these great texts of this one, and this is why, and this is a great one too, and I love this one, and look at that on that one. But yeah, it just comes down to who won the vote, and then obviously Guinness themselves get to pick the rest. So I'm excited. We'll announce it soon. Don't worry.
That's awesome. So we've been working on the step. The front part of the step is going to be darker, and then the top of the step is going to be lighter because that is actually facing the sky, so it's going to catch the light. I added a tiny little bit of blue to that just to give it it's almost like it's reflecting the light from the sky, so that's why I added a little bit of blue to that. And then I'm just doing some highlights along the outside of the door frame, just to make it a little bit lighter on the very edge where it's going to meet that flat part of the wall. Now we're going to start on the wall, and I'm turning my canvas because of that ground is still wet, and I'm always touching the canvas with my pinky to keep my hand steady. So I've learned very quickly that I get paint all over my fingers and I smear stuff. So for the wall, it's going to be like this creamy yellow color. So I'm just mixing it right into that brown that we were using earlier. Just getting some yellow and white and a little bit of that red. And so it's going to be like a cream, not so much like a pinky cream, like a yellowy creamy color. So lots of yellow, lots of white, and a tiny, tiny little bit
This
of
always
that
reminds
red.
me of like a Easter egg color, just like a creamsicle, something you'd eat in the summertime. A nice lolly, ice
Yes.
lolly.
And then that's be the color of the wall. So you can just paint that whole wall front. I'm adding a little bit of gray for that little corner area because that's going to be like a shadowed area behind the flower pot. And again, with your wall, it's not a flat color. So if you have streaks in it, it's fine. It's like I've seen these, what are they called?
The wall itself,
Yeah,
like the
the
little
finish
villas.
of the,
Oh, it's like
yeah, what is
stucco
it?
or something.
Stucco, that's what it is.
Yeah,
I was thinking impasto, and I'm like, that is not the right word. And
that sounds like pasta.
I'm like, I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, that's why I say we always need a guest expert on here. So if we have any solid construction people that know all the finishings of the outside of a building, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
We need a
the stucco
zookeeper.
of the wall is gonna grab that dirt. It's gonna hold it. So like, unless it's been power washed recently, it's not going to be a flat color. So if you've got a little bit of streak in it, that's fine. And what we're actually going to do is you can see through the paint there, and you can still see some of my sketch marks from the branches of the vine. And what I'm going to do is, after that initial flat color painting, I'm actually going to make a slightly darker color, and I'm going to do some quick swipes over those branches in that slightly darker color. And what that's going to do is kind of just make a shadow of where those branches are to give that vine a little bit of depth to again ground it. The same reason that we put shadows underneath of the flower pots is to ground and give depth to those vines that, I mean, they are stuck on the wall and they are going to cast a shadow down. And then here I added a little bit of yellow to that same color, and I'm just cleaning up that edge. And there. the shadow is very, very subtle. So by the time we probably put all of our leaves and flowers on it, you probably won't notice it anyways, but it's better to have it. Now with our small brush, grabbing some blue for the flower pots. I love those bright cobalt blue flower
I know.
pots.
Made me
I don't
want
know
one in
what
real
it is
life.
about that.
Yeah.
So we're making 3 different tones, a dark blue, a medium blue, and a little bit of a light blue to give some dimension and roundness to these flower pots. So the dark blue is going to be along the edges and on the bottom. The medium blue is going to be just chunky color in the middle. And then that lighter blue is going to be the highlights. And if you're doing a curved one, it's going to be the point where it's not quite the top, but just along the shoulder of that. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. If it's round, it's going to be slightly small on the top. It's going to go out a little bit and then curve back down. So right at that point where it's going out before it curves down is where those highlights are going to be. So I'm doing the dark blue on all 3 of them first. It's going to be underneath, on the bottom, and then just along the edge. And then underneath that lip. And a little bit more black.
It's nice as well because it adds the shading in.
Yeah, yeah, because those edges, as they kind of go around the edge, it's going to get darker. And that blue, at least my blue, is very translucent, so it may take a couple layers to really get a nice solid color, but adding a little bit of black to that will help. And then as you make your way up through the shades from the medium blue to the light blue with the white, that'll help with that translucence and add some opaqueness to it.
Exactly.
So you don't want it too big of a jump from the dark blue to the medium blue, so that's why I added a little bit of white to that middle blue and then mixed it in to that dark blue. So it wasn't too big of a transition. And it's just, I'm literally not even brushing my paint on, I'm tapping it on and kind of just quick little strokes and taps and just chunks of color. And you can see I'm still doing like this whole U shape. And that's kind of just sticking with the shape. And as your paint strokes, as you work your way around that round shape and you keep your motion in that round type of motion, it adds to that shape. Here's the highlights, and it's just a little bit of that white into that blue, and then blending it in onto the canvas. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of color difference there, and we'll adjust that as well. But since the paint's wet, we're constantly blending, moving, pushing the paint back and forth to blend it in.
I actually kind of love that it's translucent as you're going through. And it's fun because I feel like in the last couple of years, it's been very trendy to have, terrariums and all of that. But my family has always been obsessed with plants. And so we have this one plant that goes back literally 20 years at this point, and it's a spider
I'm
plant. Do you
so
know what a
jealous.
spider plant is?
Yes. It's a fern, and it grows out in like these long vines, and
Yes.
then there's literally like a burst of leaves in different sections, right?
Yep, exactly. And
Okay.
I just, yeah, we've just had it
Whew,
going
I'm
for
glad
like
I got
20
that
years.
right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love
And like it
terrariums.
has, sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying, I've tried many times to create my own little like enclosed terrarium, and I failed every time. But I knew a lady who had a gigantic like glass water jug,
Oh,
and
cool.
it had a lid on it, and she's like, this thing is probably 30 or 40 years old, and we've never opened it,
Oh,
and it
wow.
was thriving. I was like, I'm in awe.
Wow, that's cool. I don't want to
But
take away from your red door. And then we can go back to talking about plants.
it's absolutely. So your red door is, the bottom of the door is going to be that true red color. And then as you kind of work your way up, as you can see in the picture, it's going to be a little bit darker. Now, this is going to be streaky. Your lines are going to go from top to bottom. And that is kind of giving the door more like a paneled wood look. And just, sorry, I was actually looking at the painting to try to describe it better. So we're just going to paint it solid red to begin with, and then we're going to add some darker colors to it. And the darker color is going to be underneath of the top of the door frame where the shadow's coming down. And we're going to pull those shadow colors straight down throughout the entire door to give it a nice streaky paneled look. And I think it adds a lot of character to the door as well. So you definitely want your lines to go up and down for this one. Yeah, you can just add a tiny, tiny little bit of black to that red to make a darker red for these shadows. It's just going right up against that door frame. And then we're going to pull that down. And your paint may be still wet, so it might be a little bit, so it might not blend very well, which is fine. It just, again, that's just going to add to the character of the door. But while you're painting that red door, I want to go back and talk about plants because I love plants. I've got so many of them. And I've been obsessed with these YouTube videos of these aquascapes. So it's like fish tanks, but it's all underwater live plants. And there are so many videos on them. And I just totally lose hours watching these guys build these aquascapes. I love them.
That is so cool. See, yeah, there's so many different things that you can build, but like for me, I need a semi-indestructible plant that doesn't need a ton of water because if we go away or we're, doing events somewhere else in the country, you don't want to have to like sit there and water it all the time. So a lot of the plants I get are like kind of water a couple times a week or once a week or whatever. Or
Yeah.
even better, you get the saucer at the bottom, fill it with water, and then it kind of drinks it over the week, which is perfect. But I do love a good plant. I'm obsessed. That's
too.
kind of our go-to in our family is like because we have that spider plant and it has little babies that come off of it, you can literally take it apart and then plant it, put it in water, it grows its roots, and then you plant it and it literally pulls into a full brand new plant. So the amount of people that I know that have one of our family spider plants, it's incredible, which is really cool because it's all from that one plant 20 years ago.
That's awesome.
It's such a nice tradition. So if you have a green thumb of any sort, you could start with a plant like a spider plant, very forgiving, and hard enough
Mm.
to it's hard to kill a spider plant, I think.
Mm. I have a lot of plants in our bathroom because the airflow in the bathroom is so bad, so it's always
It's like
moist in
tropical.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
It's all the
they
showers.
thrive in there.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
I can
That's
go weeks without watering some stuff.
that is brilliant. It is fun though. Like a lot of people have picked up some pretty cool hobbies I've seen. Besides painting, I've seen a lot of people obviously are into baking. Tons of people have learned to make like espresso martinis. Even the black velvet
Mm.
cocktail that we made with Guinness last time, that was cool. But
Yes.
it's fun to see, what people come up with. And I think it's a positive day. They've lifted the restrictions a little bit, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
exciting. It's great news to hear like how well we're doing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we'll be cautious but hopeful. And we've been talking to a
Yes.
lot of our venues that we miss dearly. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say to anyone in Dublin. Pogue Cafe are kind of doing a limited takeout service, and you can purchase things on their online store, like pancake mix and stuff. And we have pretty exciting news coming in the next couple days with that, and an event that might be popping up with conjunction to that. But then also, Against the Grain opened their doors today for the first time in months, and they're doing takeaway. So you can pop over to Against the Grain on Instagram, and you'll see their takeout menu and everything. And like their wings and their burgers are so good. I think they
That's
do truffle fries
fantastic.
as
That's
well. It's just exciting
oh
that we have like
yum.
all of our options back to go and get your favorite
Yeah.
foods and, you know, some sort
Yeah.
of normalcy.
So we're making some green here. We're going to be doing just again variations of greens, a dark green, medium green, and a light green. I don't remember it taking this long to make a green.
I know, but it's just getting the different shades. And I always say, like, if you don't love it on your palette, you're probably not going to love it on the canvas. So do take your time. You could be picky.
Yeah, and I always love mixing colors. I love getting, you can get endless amount of colors and just adding a little bit at a time and mixing colors. It's one of my favorite things to do. Just sit there and mix colors. So after making all that green, we are going to make brown, like a dark brown. And this is going to be for the trunk and the vines and the top of that left flower pot for the dirt, essentially. Now, I'm holding my paintbrush very, very loosely, and that's why I did that little weird thing with the paintbrush there to show you that I'm literally not holding it. I'm just barely keeping control of it and just dragging it down and around the door. And it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line, and that's why I'm holding it so loose, so that it isn't a perfectly straight line. What you do want to make sure is that those end branches are thin, and then as you come towards the base of that vine, that's where it's kind of going to get thicker. And we're going to fill the top of that pot with that same brown color for the dirt. And then it's just that very edge of that paintbrush. And just, again, loosely kind of pulling it down and into that main trunk area. And then little branches coming off of those bigger ones.
You could do this part with the lightest touch. I always say you barely touch the canvas with your detail brush because then you'll get a nice thin line. You know, the harder you press down with the brush, the more spread out the bristles will go, and like the more, basically the larger the line will be.
Yeah, like a feather's touch. You want just like pretend it's like a feather, and you just want just the tip of that feather to touch your canvas. That's how light I want you to touch it. Now we're going to do the base of the flower pots, the plants again. So when you do plants, to really create depth and shadow to plants, the best base color that you can put down is a really beautiful deep purple. And I know it sounds weird, but it works. I promise you. So that's what that base color is that really nice deep purple. So it's red and that blue color to create this really beautiful deep purple color. And it's just tapping. So for our leaves, we're not doing like fine details with the leaves. We're just tapping the edge of our brush. It is going to be a very more abstract type of plant than a fine detail one. If you have a fine detail brush and you want to do detailed leaves, or have at it. You could spend hours just working on those leaves. And then you want to grab your dark green and start tapping away. You don't need to fill in the whole shape, just kind of the basic shape with that darker green. And you're just lightly tapping it in for your pot that's closer to you. You want those leaves to be bigger, chunkier. And I'm doing a quick couple lines in there as stems just to kind of give me a visual of where I want my flowers to be. And then we're going to work our way through those different variations of colors. So that purple, that dark green, the medium green, the light green, and some chunky yellow. And with the vines as well, you're going to start with that dark green and just kind of fill in the vines. They don't need to be completely filled. I mean, it is a vine, so the leaves can be kind of sporadic. And as you fill it in with the different variations of green, those vines will start filling in. So you don't want to cover your entire vine with just chunks of that dark green. So just use that sparingly, kind of fill in those leaves that are closer to the wall underneath of the rest of those leaves. And it's just a quick little tap on the edge of your brush. Perfect. That's fantastic. They did a great job on that harp.
Okay, so you guys couldn't hear me for a minute there. I'm going to go back and say that this was our People's Choice winner. So what I'm going to do is it is officially Alba Dowling. I hope I'm not butchering your name. So this was our People's Choice winner. You guys had so many great options. This was our fourth choice, or the four options that it came down to. And the way this gets voted is you guys vote. Everyone kind of reacts to all the different, I think we've got a couple dozen entries in, and basically through those reactions, we narrowed it down to the top four. And from the top four, the voting, like I said, was fierce today. You guys are very good. I think a lot of people sent it to their friends and all that is great, healthy competition. But in the end, our lovely Guinness Gates is what we're calling it. Painting won the People's Choice. So again, you win a Guinness Open Gate Brewery sweatshirt. So if you want to get on to us with your contact details, we will be in touch and send it out. Now, obviously, the prizes for that will be a little bit delayed just because I don't know, have they been to the Open Gate Brewery? It's been closed. So we'll be getting your prizes out as soon as possible. Okay, so then I think we're ready for our next one, Stephen. Perfect. So the next one is our most creative. This one was really cool. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's very cute. They've done the flowers in the bottom, and Guinness, all of our Guinness experts came back and said, I love this as most creative. Because if you look really closely, they've hidden Guinness bottles all throughout this painting. So it's a bit like an I Spy painting. Isn't that cool, Jill? Do you see it on the clouds? And then in the grass?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out what it was on the clouds because it's so tiny on
Yeah.
my screen. But yeah, now that you mention it and you told me what it was, like that is fabulous.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's funny because when I first saw it, I didn't even notice it. I basically package everything up and I send it over to our Guinness, our friends at Guinness, and they pick. Now, based on that, what happened was they came back and they're like, we love the little, the cute little things on the clouds. So this most creative was, hopefully I'm saying your name right. It was Shifra and Phil Ryan. And I think you guys did it together. So I'm not sure which one of you did it, but one of you, we always call Phil Ryan Phil Casso or Picasso Ryan. So you guys joined us a lot of weeks. So I was very excited to see that one come through. And again, Guinness, we're super impressed with the cute little Guinness ones. And again, your prize is a Open Gate Brewery sweatshirt. So very exciting. Get in touch with us and let us know which size you prefer, and we'll get those out to you. And then the last one is kind of the expert pick. And this is a pretty exciting prize because it's going to be a trip to the Open Gate Brewery for you and a guest. And from there, you get a Paint by the Pints event as well. So are you ready to see the next one? Let's see it. Drum roll, please. All right. So this one was sent in from Cher Liz. I think it was Sharon and Claire Lynch that sent it in. Again, congratulations. Very exciting. I guess the detailing on it was very good, and they were super impressed with all of the different shadowing and the colors. So it was very cool and well done. Super exciting to see all this. Again, with this prize, you're going to get your Open Gate Brewery entry, as well as a Paint by the Pints event there, and I believe a flatbread to split between the two of you. And that obviously comes with a flight of the Guinness experimental beers. So it's very exciting. That's a really cool prize. So those are our three Guinness winners of this week. And the next event we have for Guinness is going to be on the 26th. So if you haven't already, you'll find all the tickets are directly on our website, paintbythepints.com. And again, Jill,
Well
we have
done,
to figure out
everyone.
what we're doing. Yes, exactly. Well done.
Yeah.
We have to pick a painting. It's hard. There's so many
very
great
hard.
options.
I love them all too.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. And there's so many animals. And like we always say, Jessica Handy's really good at helping us kind of guide what she recommends and things like that. Now, the last one we did was actually a painting that had never been finished, which was cool. But this time I'm thinking some cute little animal. We'll have to decide. We'll see. So I'm thinking we'll go back and finish the last part of the painting.
Yep. So we are still working on that dark green, kind of tapping in those leaves. And I'm adding a little bit of purple in between as well, just to kind of add to that, those shadows and in depth. And we're adding some more leaves to the vines. And this can be the medium green or the medium to dark green, so a little bit lighter than that dark. We're just filling in those branches.
I see we have a lot of people tagging us in great things. We have Aoife. Aoife Coleman's back. Welcome, Aoife. Yes, it's totally fine. If you're behind, you use that rewind button. Just keep going back until you catch up. That's it. Like I always say, we're definitely gonna get text at 11 p.m. tonight being like, I finished. That's fine. There's no rush. You could do it over the weekend as well. Take your time.
But there's no better way to spend your Friday night than painting.
Exactly.
Get another glass of wine, put on some nice music, and just relax.
Exactly. We also have Joe and Michelle. I feel like we need a documentary on Joe and Michelle. They are we've mentioned it a while ago, but they're the couple that have been isolating apart. So this is their date night every Friday, which I love. I think they do a quiz night as well. I need to see that reunion. It needs to be like some sort of documentary series of when they actually get to meet up again when the restrictions lift. So I hope you guys are continuing to enjoy your Friday night.
You'd hold out.
Exactly.
Do you think they would hold out for a Paint by the Pint reunion?
Yeah, exactly. Could you imagine? I know you can see each other, but you have to wait.
We've been with you through this long.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. That's a funny, yeah. Well, there you go. Just an idea, Joe and Michelle. You guys can have a big reunion at one of our events. And then I also saw, do you know who's back, Jill?
We do private events there.
Exactly. Do you know who's back this week? What's the activity that I'm dying to do?
Karate.
Karate Paul is back, and I'm so excited. So
Woo-hoo!
I'm just thinking, if the restrictions are lifting, at what point do I get to sign up for karate? That's the most important question. I have to come out of this a karate expert.
You have to come back to Dublin for that, though, right?
Exactly. Well, yes. Yeah. Yes. I think, what is it? Rathkip karate? I gotta look it up. Love seeing Karate Paul. See, exactly. He learned painting in his isolation, so now I'm gonna learn karate in my next phase.
There you go. That would be fun to do.
Exactly.
So yeah, during your conversation, we're just on our way through the medium green and then the light green, and just tapping our way with the colors. Just adding some highlights to those leaves. Now I'm just adding some green chunks to the ground as though the leaves have fallen on the ground, which they do. And it just gives some character to that bottom portion of that painting. And now I am reaching for my small detail brush. If you don't have one, you can just use your small brush, it's fine. And while the leaves are drying, we are going to be working on the hardware for the door. So I'm just pulling it out and curling it up and doing a quick curl down for the hinges on the door.
Those are
You can
so
add
cute.
water to your black. Yeah, yeah, it really gives it that old world feeling. Like,
It really does. It's like that little detail of character. And that's the kind of thing that, like, as you're painting this, we're putting on finishing touches, but, or well, not finishing touches, but like detail. You can add birds in the corner. It'll look fabulous popping out through like that blue, that
yeah,
vibrant blue. Absolutely, go for it.
yeah. Now for the handle, I'm kind of keeping with that old world feeling. And I don't know how to describe it other than like the top of the handle is like an upside down heart, and the bottom of the handle where it meets the door is a right side heart or a spade. Is that yeah, like the spade on the cards? And then the handle is going to kind of come out and curve down and then meet that spade shape on the bottom. Now, my leaves are really, really thick and really chunky. So this is where it's still wet at this point. So that's why I'm kind of trying to fill in the time. I'm adding a little bit of long grass to the bottom of that that vine in that flower pot, because I'm trying to wait for my leaves to dry, but I am going to have to pull out my hair dryer. So in a minute. And it took so long for me to dry it that I actually like sped up this hair drying section, this blow drying section, because it took so long because my paint was so thick.
It's
So
funny.
if you have
thought
to
you got
pause
this
it
far.
here, like,
Exactly.
yeah, you're gonna have like, this is gonna be completely sped up, and it's gonna take, if your paint is as thick as mine was, it's gonna take longer than this time period. But mine was really thick and chunky, so, and I can still feel the texture. Like the texture is really thick on my painting.
That's awesome. I can pause it for a second just so people have a chance to grab their hair dryer. Pause it for 1 sec. It's fun because as you're painting this, it's like so many layers coming into play, but then at the same time, obviously it's going to take forever to dry. I always joke, if you take, a lot of paint layers, it's going to dry sometime next week, but acrylic paint, especially in this weather, it will dry eventually.
Yeah.
But the hair dryer definitely helps. How many of us have actually used our hair dryers outside of Paint by the Pints? Maybe once or twice.
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah,
Definitely
exactly.
not every time. Like, my hair's been in a bun or a ponytail for 8 weeks. So
Yeah, it sounds pretty accurate. Yeah, exactly. Or if you have a Zoom meeting, you gotta look, professional from the waist up. So you wear pajama bottoms on the bottom. No one will know. No, that's kind of fun. I was just thinking as well, like, you know what we missed out, Jill? We should have gotten Matt Damon while he was still in Ireland. Actually, we can stream him in from LA. We should have
we
got him while he was in
could.
Ireland.
I know. We should have definitely tracked him down.
Did you see, I think it was the Spin Radio tracked him down successfully, and it was brilliant.
I did.
Yeah.
I listened to it.
Another actually,
funny that they were protecting him down there.
Oh yeah,
As they should,
as they
because
should. I
now
was
he'll
so
come
proud of
back.
the people of Dalkey. Like, fair play to you.
Yeah.
That's the last
Yeah.
thing they'd want, is to come to a place and then be swarmed by, people in media. But at least it sounds like everyone's very respectful
Mhm.
about it. There's also
But he'll be
a,
back. He's got to finish. He's got to finish making his movie, so he will be back.
yeah. The other thing of all, like, we see so many different accounts, and obviously our artists have their own Instagrams, and they kind of show what they've been creating over the last couple of weeks. But there's one artist that I came across that I'm really so impressed with. Do look up Shane Gillen on Instagram. He has these time lapses. Jill, have you seen them actually? I'll have to share it with you. He does time
No,
lapses of his
but
like
I'm gonna write
portraits,
down him.
and it's absolutely incredible. I don't even know how to describe how he sketches, but he has his own method of sketching. And yeah, look up Shane Gillen. He paints, or he sketches and then draws in with like permanent marker basically. Um, it's so incredible. And like he does all these like kind of codes through the face. It almost looks like Rain Man, with like all the different thoughts and, numbers going through their head. But literally going through the drawing, he'll put like coordinates. So he put the coordinate of super value in Dalkey, because he had the super value bag. He drew Matt Damon. So that's what made me think of it. But definitely, that was definitely an entertaining account to follow. And now he's raising loads of money for some amazing charities. And I think he actually just did a George Floyd painting, or drawing. But really cool. Definitely go check him
Nice.
out. All right, we can go back. Hopefully that was enough time for you guys to grab your hair dryers. And again, if you wanted to air dry and you want to do the rest tomorrow, that's completely fine. There's no rush. The nice thing as well is people are going to be doing this
Yeah.
in like a
So
month's time and watching it back. So that's kind of cool.
So I decided to make the chunks of colors or the flowers and the vines orange, because I looked over my painting and I thought there's no orange. So let's add a different color. So I just made some orange. If you want to do your flowers a different color, if you want to do them white or pink, again, this is your painting. I'm just kind of giving you the base. So just some orange, and then just dabbing some color in where I just kind of felt like there needed to be some color. Or if you were perfectly happy with it being green and no flowers, you could have done that too. So we're just dabbing it in. And as I'm dabbing it in, I'm doing the flat part of the brush, I'm turning it, I'm doing one corner, then I'm kind of turning my brush completely to a different angle. So you're not getting the same type of shape or paint stroke in there. You want it to be you want a big chunk of color, then a small chunk of color, just to give you some variation in that color. And I'm just kind of adding a couple little spots of color down at the bottom again, because I'm imagining that some of these leaves and petals are falling down onto the ground.
It's great for this part as well, because you can always start with less is more and then add them on. And again, really dainty little leaves on the ground. You don't want it to be too thick or too bold. And if you do, the nice thing is it's a really dark color underneath, especially on the base. You could just kind of go over it with the gray again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now for this flower pot next to the door, I love to add like just this little splash of white. So I just made it into like a little daisy pot. So I took my little tiny detail brush, and I'm not taking my time with these shapes. I'm literally just kind of quickly squidging flower shapes in them. Sometimes I did 5 or 6 kind of streaks of color. Sometimes I just kind of squiggled a shape in. So again, we are playing with the variation of shapes and sizes, and you want that variation because not all the flowers are going to be facing you and having the same size or the same color. So having that variation is really going to add to that. And then just a quick rinse of my brush, grabbing some orange and putting in little orange dots in the middle of them. And again, I know I went through that really quickly, and point you at
Yeah.
least for me,
It's like there's
just to kind
magically
of
a full
throw
bloom.
in this color. Yeah, right. But yeah, absolutely take your time. If you feel like I'm going too fast, obviously just pause it and then fill it in. Now for the flowers that were in the flower pot in the right hand corner, I love the idea of having yellow flowers, and then they kind of turned into these little mini sunflowers. Like, so the yellow part is going to be the petals that are close to you, and then the splashes of orange are kind of like the petals that are on the top part or the farther away, and that really kind of helps add to the shape of those flowers. And just again, it's all about dimension, it's all about perspective and adding layers to your painting. So I decided to do like this half. It basically looks like a half orange, half yellow flower, but in the end, it kind of works out. And it's
Exactly.
not, again, it's not neat. It's just quickly dabbing in these chunks of lines, and some parts you can actually see through. If you really get close to my flowers, you can actually see some of the orange has mixed in with some of the green, and that's fine. And so the orange is kind of going to be on the top sections or one half of the flowers. And then I don't even think I washed my brush out in some parts, and I just grabbed a chunk of that yellow, and you're just quickly smudging it on, smushing it in. You're not really blending, but you're not trying to mix it, but you're not trying to keep it separate either. So, and then we're gonna grab a chunk of that brown that we had used for the vines, and that is going to be the center point of the flower.
These are so pretty and they're so
And
simple.
that is a bit more oval. It's not so much like, yeah, yeah. And again, it's just that burst of color. It really stands out with the blue flower pot and those green leaves. And then the final thing is to do a quick signature at the bottom, and you're done.
Painless, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm still painting. People still at the door, but that's okay. Take your time. This is for you guys to enjoy. It's meant to be relaxing. And the nice thing is, if you want to like go ahead and put Spotify on when the stream ends, you can keep going back, listening to Jill's bit and pieces of information or tips, and then keep going. It's all for you guys, so it's a bit of fun. So as well, I wanted to say thank you tickets again. That is how we are kept going, doing our free streams. So every week we're able to do our family friendly